Perfect. All right. So we're going to start off with introductions first for this meeting. But welcome to the Housing 101 session. This is basically for the next step. So we've kind of talked about renewing and just kind of how to get your foot into the door. Now we're kind of talking about how do we make sure, how are we reserving the space? What's the next step here? So yeah, we'll start off by introducing. My name's Taylor. I am the leasing professional for Scott Campus. Um, Basically, what I do is I oversee the leasing process for students who want to live here on Scott campus. I oversee the leasing email and just making sure that we're getting your foot through the door. But Demaya, do you want to go?
Yes, so my name is Demaya Valdivia. I'm the Housing Operations Coordinator. I am stationed at Dodge Campus, so I oversee the UNO housing email address, our main phone number for housing. I also receive all the applications and filter through them and send Scott their apps and filter through Dodge's applications as well. I send contracts for Dodge Campus as well as assign rooms and roommates.
Perfect. And then Denise.
Hi, I'm Denise Wazorek. I am the Assistant Director for Dodge Campus. I oversee pretty much the Housing Operations Coordinator position and do all the accounts receivable, payable, and all the billing on Dodge Campus as well.
Cool. All right. So now that we've introduced ourselves, we're going to get started with some specific contract information. So since we are two different campuses, there are a little bit different processes for each one. So first, I'm going to let Demaya talk about contract information for Dodge Campus.
Okay, so contract information for Dodge Campus. So contracts have been already sent out for renewing students. So if you are returning and lived on campus this past year or currently, you probably have already been sent a contract. We have sent some to new incoming students as well. Once you are offered a contract, that will be sent to your personal email address and your UNO email address. So please be checking both of those as we try to send the contract offer in more than one way. You are given a 2-week time frame to sign your contract. So whenever you get it, please make sure you read through the entire email because it also lists the date that it is due. So read all of that because all that information is within the email you get. You must go back into the housing application to complete the offered contract. So where you went to apply for housing is the exact same portal you will go in to sign your offered contract if you are offered housing on Dodge campus. If you are under 18, you do need to put proxy information for a parent or guardian before you can move on to the next step. So make sure you are putting that information because if not, and that proxy is not complete, your contract is considered not finished. Once you do your proxy and sign your contract, there is a $50 activity fee that needs to be paid before it is considered complete. So make sure you get both of those 2 steps or all 3 of those steps done so your contract is considered complete.
All right. So now we're going to kind of talk about Scott Campus and basically the renewal contract or the contract that comes down to here. So we have 2 different lease types. So if you're a renewal resident, that means you already have lived on campus. You should have received a renewal lease if you said you were interested in living on campus again. And then with new applicants, so if you're going to be a first year incoming transfer, anything like that, we have yet to send out those contracts, but you will be receiving them by the end of next week. With ours, we use a lease signing partner. So we use a different application called Blue Ink to send out our contracts. And 2 people will be required to complete the lease. One is the student, so the person actually coming to live on campus, and then also a guarantor. So a guarantor is similar to a cosigner. It can be a parent, guardian, or a partner, anything like that. But they are sent 2 separate email links. So it'll be from Blue Ink themselves. Once you are also sent a contract, basically what happens is our office also sends you an email just to inform you of this. But just as a reminder, those 2 links are sent both to the student and the guarantor. They receive a separate link and both need to be completed. Those specific links to your email will only give you access to your specific section. So if you're in your student email address and everything like that, you click on that link, you can't fill out the guarantor section. Like Dodge Campus, we also give a 2-week time frame for both of the sections of the lease to be completed. After that, they automatically expire, and we have to talk about our availability if you're still interested, and kind of go from there and send you a new contract. So we do kind of talk about that 2-week time frame when we send you that initial email as well. But just kind of keep on the lookout. Make sure you're kind of keeping up to date with when your lease will expire. So.
Hi, how do you know which if you're Dodge or Scott? Because when we signed up for the application, there was like the top 5 suggestions.
Yeah, so when you get like a lease like through email, normally it'll tell you what the lease type that you got. So we have different properties on campus. So obviously we have the 2 different campuses. For Dodge campus, if you receive a University Village or a Maverick Village lease, that means you're on Dodge. If you receive a Scott Court, Scott Village, Scott Crossing, or Scott Residential Hall lease, that means you're on Scott campus. In that email, when you're receiving that contract, it'll also say, I'm sure, welcome to Dodge campus or welcome to Scott campus. This is the lease type you've received, and this is exactly how the process will go. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah,
no
thank you so
problem.
much. And so, and you said for some of the new students, we might have already received that.
So for Dodge, I don't know if you've sent them out, but for Scott campus, no, we have yet to send out any of our new applicants. They will be receiving their leases by the end of next week if you've already gone through the UNO housing application.
Right. And because I think the other person said the Dodge ones, they had been sent out, or maybe I got that wrong.
No, we've sent out a few contract offers for Dodge campus, but most students have not. So it's
Okay.
Yeah, a very small portion.
Okay, and so then that should be coming then within the next couple of weeks.
It just really depends on availability. And we're going to talk about that in the next slide too. If you haven't been offered a contract yet, kind of what that looks like for students, because I think a lot of people are in that boat right now.
I see. Okay. I'll be quiet. Sorry.
You're fine.
No, you're good. All right, cool. So next we'll kind of talk about what Demaya was saying if they haven't received a contract. So go ahead, Demaya.
Yes, so if you haven't received a contract, which I'm sure most people in this meeting have not, please don't panic, don't stress, don't worry. We are still really early in the process. We will, don't worry, we're still in the process. Please double check those emails provided in the forms. It's really hard for us to provide a date of when we will send you an exact time for when you will get an offer, just because we're still processing through those and we're still working through them. And so we don't have an exact date to give at this time, unfortunately. But if you've already submitted your application, just know that we're working through it, and hopefully you will hear back from either Scott or Dodge campus really soon. If you have any concerns, you can email us at unohousing@unomaha.edu, and please include your NUID if you have questions, so we can kind of look you up and see exactly where you're at in the process and kind of give you more information. But please don't stress, don't worry, we will get to it. And so if you have questions, just reach out to us.
I do want to add to that too, Demaya, that everyone needs to realize that when we send contracts out, they have 2 weeks to sign. So if we send out in like batches, technically we have to wait for those people to sign contracts before we can offer more contracts. So just know it could take up to 2 weeks. So as we're getting through contracts, but that is why it takes a little bit longer, just FYI.
Thanks, Denise. Awesome. So now we're going to kind of talk about once you kind of receive that contract, the housing application has been open since November 1st. So it's a long time, different opportunities arise. Who knows, maybe your student now doesn't even want to go to UNO, but they've been receiving this contract. So we understand that situations may change. So there's always the option to kind of cancel your contract and no longer be interested in on-campus housing. So if you no longer need on-campus housing and we're sent a lease, what you're going to have to do is we do require you to submit a cancellation. So this must be specifically through writing. So through email is typically how we request students cancel their contract. And we also ask that the student does it themselves, just because that's the person who's going to be living on campus, and all of that good stuff. So done in writing and then also from the student itself. phone. I have a lot of people like call our offices and everything like that and just say, hey, by the way, I'm just canceling my lease. We need that documentation in writing, so that is important to us. Also, I just recommend anytime you're emailing into our office to always provide your full name and then your NUID. It helps us look up your information just easier, just better. It makes kind of the process more smooth. So there also are kind of two different things here. So if you're canceling that contract and it's not signed by either parties or anything like that, you won't be held liable to a cancellation penalty or anything like that. It is different if the contract is fully signed and completed. That's when you would have to kind of adhere to our UNO housing and residence life cancellation policy. And so we have it up there. If you signed the contract, we have different dates. This cancellation policy fluctuates and depends on the date of your cancellation. So once we receive that email, if you cancel your contract in writing before June 15th, you will only forfeit that $200 security deposit that you paid when you applied for housing at UNO. Anytime from June 16th to July 31st, that's when the cancellation penalty goes to, you forfeit that $200 security deposit, and then you pay a $750 lease cancellation fee. So with that, just kind of be mindful. If you're signing that contract, that means you've reserved a space in on-campus housing. So we have been reserving that for you. And if you know you're kind of on the fence, we recommend not signing that contract until you 100% know, hey, I'm coming to live on campus, and just kind of making sure that we avoid those cancellation penalties if we can. Awesome. Demaya, did you have anything you wanted to add or anything?
No, I think you covered it all.
Okay, perfect. Just wanted to make sure.
I have something.
Perfect. Do it, girl.
So I do want to just mention the fact that we did change our cancellation dates due to the FAFSA issue that is going on right now. We understand a lot of people aren't going to know what their FAFSA package is, which might delay people signing their contracts. We understand that, but we also do have a deadline that's given to students to sign contracts. So we did push that penalty, the cancellation penalty, back until June 15th. It's normally April 30th. So we did push that back. So if you do sign a contract and you decide you do not want to come to UNO, technically at that point, you just lose your $200 deposit. You're not going to be penalized anymore, but you will lose that $200 deposit. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there because I know a lot of people are having issues with the FAFSA, and that's probably going to be an issue and have an impact on people signing contracts.
Very true. Yes. Thank you so much, Denise. All right. Okay. So another thing that we want to make sure that you guys don't forget when you're applying for housing and kind of signing your contracts. So these are just some helpful reminders as you consider living on campus. So one of the biggest things is in our community policies, we require that students must be considered full-time students to live in on-campus housing. So that means 12 credit hours or more for undergrad, 9 credits for graduate students. Another thing is students really care about who they live with. If they have certain roommates that they want to live with, that say they have friends from high school that are coming in, we just want to make sure that you guys are communicating with each other. The only way that you guys can live together is if you hold the same contract type. So say you're given a University Village contract with Dodge campus and your friend that you want to live with has a Scott Village annual lease. We can't put you guys together. We're completely different campuses. Those are completely different properties, completely different buildings, and all of that fun stuff. So you'll want to make sure that you communicate with the person you want to live with. Communicate with our office. We'd be sure to help you out on making sure that you guys have that same contract type. But yeah, just make sure you're kind of looking into those if you have someone you want to live with. Another thing that we offer that we don't want people to forget about is on UNO's campus for on-campus housing, we do have opportunities in our living learning communities and also different themed housing. So I wanted to give kind of examples of those. So we have our honors program, which is held in Maverick Village. We have the Thompson Living Learning Community up on Dodge. We have our Scott Scholars program in Scott Hall. We also have different entrepreneurial living learning communities in Village. We have a engineering academy in Crossing. We have a business administration also in Crossing. So there's a bunch of different opportunities for you to kind of get involved and get into a specific community. We also have themed housing. And so we have, for example, Indigenous students, we have Greek life, we have sustainability, we have wellness. So there's a lot of different places where you can kind of make sure, hey, if, this is something I'm interested in, maybe this is like my kind of community that we can get you into. So if you have any questions about those, feel free to reach out to us and we'll kind of give you the further information on that specific program. And another thing that we wanted to highlight is there is an application called Zemi. And so with that, Zemi is an app that UNO admissions office is using to allow current and then also incoming students to meet other individuals who are attending UNO. It can absolutely help you meet people and maybe find people who you're interested in living with. However, it is not being used as our roommate matching application for on-campus housing. We actually use a different roommate application, and that is called RoomSync. So Zemi is a great resource for you to utilize to find people, but RoomSync is ultimately the one place where you can request to live with other people in on-campus housing. So once you're kind of receiving a contract, mid to late March, you'll receive a RoomSync link after you've signed your lease. And actually, we'll kind of dive way deeper into RoomSync and also our roommate matching process in our next Housing 101 session, which we'll kind of go over here soon. But yeah, just kind of wanted to make sure that everyone's on board of the difference between Zemi and RoomSync. All right. All right, Demaya.
All right, so what's next? So like Taylor mentioned, March, which is literally tomorrow, we will be sending out RoomSync links mid to late March. So please make sure you are checking your email, and those will be sent to qualifying contracts. So that is if you signed your contract, if your proxy, if need be, signs their contract and you pay the activity fee. That would be the qualifying contracts. And I think Taylor, for Scott, it's what the steps need to take to be qualifying.
Yeah, for qualifying, basically, once you guys sign a contract, so once the student and then once the guarantor both sign their sections of the lease, that means they've officially reserved their place in on-campus housing in that specific lease. So that's what we would do, is just having kind of a fully signed contract that would make you qualified to receive that RoomSync link.
Yep. So just make sure you are getting those things done once you are offered housing so you can get that RoomSync link. On March 20th at 5:30 will be our next Housing 101 session, and we'll be talking all things roommates and RoomSync specifically. So if you want to come in and get some information on how to work RoomSync and how to just make sure you're pairing with the person that you want to room with, please join us for that session as well. June 15th at midnight is when RoomSync closes. So that is not a moving date. That date is solid. So please make sure, again, you're getting things done so you are not scrambling at the last minute to ensure you have the roommate that you want.
Okay. Cool. All right.
Yeah, if you have, I can do mine, you can do yours. If you have any questions, this is, again, our main housing email address, unohousing@unomaha.edu. There's also our phone number as well, so please feel free to call or send us an email. Like Taylor mentioned, cancellations, things like that, please email us that information. Don't call us with those kind of questions because we will direct you to email. But pretty much anything else that's general, you can give us a call.
Cool. And then also we have the leasing@scottcampus.com. If you have any questions specifically related to Scott Campus, email works best. And then also we have our office line there. Like Demaya said, if you kind of have anything about like housing applications or trying to cancel or anything like that, that unohousing@unomaha.edu email is going to be your best friend. But I'd absolutely love to help you out here. We can kind of direct as necessary. And those are kind of our resources there for you. For tours, if you're interested, maybe you're like, these are so many options. We don't know what property we would want because we have no idea. The good thing is our housing offices do provide housing tours, so you can kind of get a little piece of that and actually see them. For Scott Campus, we do have a tour room available. If you want to schedule a tour, feel free to call our office or just email in. we'd be happy to work with you. And then Demaya can talk about the Dodge campus tours.
Yes, so if you want to come tour Dodge campus housing, you don't need to make an arrangement or make an appointment. You can just pop in. Our clubhouses are both open 8 to 8 Monday through Friday, and then 12 to 4 on Saturdays. So just feel free to stop by one of the clubhouses and ask for a tour.
Awesome. All right. So now what we're going to kind of do is we're going to go through, it's going to basically be from here. I think we're going to stop recording unless you want to keep going with it.
I can
Yeah.
stop.